So earlier this week, someone got in touch with me via my website and they were asking me a little bit about quitting porn, and they were suggesting, do I need to like meditate more? Do I need to work out more? Do I need to do some more self-improvement stuff? And that's like the generic no-fap advice is obviously get on your purpose and stay busy and do all of that stuff, right? But here's what I've learned over the last year or so from my mentor, Mary Paulus, who taught me how to quit porn for good correctly and stay stopped. So what she taught me, and she's not really explicitly said this, but I've come to understand that's how I've quit porn, is that what I've done is I've basically installed a new way of thinking. Like, I've changed my mindset. I've really changed how I think. And in the past, I was thinking in the same way for so many years. I was doing the same sort of things, even though the things seemed like they were different each time. What I mean by that is, like, let's say I started to have cold showers, or I started to work out in the mornings, or I started to meditate at a certain time, or I started to, I don't know, get on my purpose and build like a business online, or whatever it was. Overall, I was still kind of doing the same things. One way or another, I was distracting myself. I was avoiding the desire. One way or another, I wasn't actually thinking through the consequences of looking at porn. And I hadn't changed the way that I was thinking. So I still had all these junky thoughts. Now, what are junky thoughts? Essentially, any excuse, rationalization, justification to engage in the compulsive behaviour. When you're free from porn, you realise that all of these junky thoughts are just bullshit, like created by the addicted part of the mind. And so what we have is we have a program where we talk back to our clients' junky thoughts, and I'm going to read out a few of them. So I've got a few like on my phone. I don't know if you can see that, but there's so many that maybe you can relate to. I've had a lot of these thoughts in the past as well. The first one is the consequences aren't that bad. Now, how do we deal with that? What you want to do is actually write down the consequences ahead of time, like before you're having the urges. You can do this now if you want. Pause the video, get a notepad and pen, write down the consequences of engaging in porn. For me, it'd be things like lack of confidence, lack of energy, feelings of shame, less productivity, less concentration, feeling just frustrated with myself, feeling upset that I didn't have control over myself. The list is endless. There's other things as well, like on a very practical level, playing terrible at football because I was so anxious, having erectile dysfunction. That's not what any guy really wants, is it? Other things like just being more frustrated with people, like more easily over little things, and just not being the man I wanted to be, not living up to my potential. So the consequences aren't that bad. It's bullshit. The consequences are really bad. Like, just get real, be honest, stop denying the reality of addiction. Really, really recommend writing all of that stuff down. The next one, doing this is who you are. This is from a client who'd had porn addiction for maybe like 10 or 20 years. And, well, it's not who you are. Being addicted to porn doesn't actually have much to do with somebody's identity. And that's why I don't really like the word porn addict. I just don't think anybody's identity should be wrapped up in the thing that they don't want to do. So doing this is who you are. Again, I just think it's bullshit. Like, you don't have to be the person. Like, it's not who you are. It's not. You've got addicted neural pathways. Like, this is just going on in your brain. Like, when you get into the neuroscience of it, you can really detach from this identity because you just see it as like, okay, yeah, I've got this problem, but I can change that problem. And I don't want to be defined by this one habit, this compulsion. Now, that's not to minimize it though, because at the same time, the consequences are bad. And so, you are going to be massively impacted by looking at porn. It's just that's not who you really are. Who you are and what you know, completely separate things. If you want to go beyond compulsion, you want to quit porn for good, you got to change what you know. You don't have to change who you are. You got to change what you know, okay? So the next thing, you're going to fail eventually. Some more classic junky thinking, very, very common. The addicted part of the mind's going to spin up. You're going to fail eventually. So you may as well look now, because this is the thing with junky thoughts. They always end in, so you may as well look at porn. Like, if we look at that first one again, the consequences aren't that bad, so I may as well look at porn. Doing this is who you are, so I'm going to look at porn because it's just who I am. You're going to fail eventually, so I may as well look at porn now. That's how junky thoughts actually end. But usually it's just like the first sentence, and it's kind of like disguised because the addicted part of the mind doesn't want you to think it's a junky thought, so it's going to try to deny that reality. Another one, I always struggle after X amount of days. I had this one a lot in the past. I was coming up to the 2-week mark. What do? I'm going to hit the flat line. So I'm like bullshit nofap stuff again. It's not helpful. I always struggle after X amount of days, so I may as well look at porn now, because maybe it's coming up to this time where in the past, historically, I've looked at porn. I've got nothing to do with my time tonight. That's another junky thought. Okay, well, what's the option here? Is it I'm going to be bored for a bit, or is it, I'm going to engage in a compulsive behaviour which is absolutely destroying my mental health? Weigh that one up. You've got nothing to do with your time tonight. Well, that's not actually the problem. The problem is that you're wanting to engage in the compulsive behaviour, and it's option A or option B. I either strengthen the addictive neural pathways or I weaken the addictive neural pathways. Whether you're bored tonight or you've got nothing to do, that's not really relevant to that choice of whether you stay in the addiction or you get out of the addiction by willingly accepting the temporary discomfort. I will never get a girlfriend anyway. Similar concept to the last one. You're never going to get a girlfriend anyway. Well, first of all, that's probably not true, especially if you quit porn. If you can go beyond compulsion and get in control of yourself and have all this confidence and energy and vitality, I think there's a very good chance you will get a girlfriend. But again, it's not really the point. The option is option A or option B. I either strengthen the addictive neural pathways or I weaken the addictive neural pathways. Whether you've got a girlfriend or not, that doesn't really change whether you're in an addiction. Being in an addiction is horrendous. In my opinion, there's not really too many things worse for your mind than being in an addiction. So if you've got a girlfriend or you've not got a girlfriend, it's kind of irrelevant to actually going beyond compulsion and quitting pornography. So like for me, for example, I've had girlfriends and being in the porn addiction really doesn't change anything. You're still in the addiction. It still feels horrible. So whether you've got a girlfriend or not relevant to making that choice of choosing to willingly accept the temporary discomfort when you have an urge. What do I do with my sexual energy? Again, the addictive part of the mind, spinning up this question. It's not about what do you do with your sexual energy. It's about, do you willingly accept some temporary discomfort, strengthen these new neural pathways, or do you actually go ahead and look at porn and use the sexual energy as a bullshit excuse? Because sexual energy, I don't know. I'm not too sure about this. Having gone beyond compulsion and quit porn, I think, sometimes you're going to feel more energetic than at other times, but does it have to be sexual energy? I don't know. I'm not too sure. But what I am sure of is that if I've got a load of sexual energy, I'm definitely not going to go and engage in pornography. I'm not going to go and do something that destroys my mental health and is really, really addictive. That's just for certain. There are worse ways to relieve these feelings. I think this one was in the context of going and seeing prostitutes, because we've had a few clients who have gone and, met up with prostitutes because they thought, well, at least it's not porn. Again, it's just bullshit, junky thinking. Of course, maybe there are worse ways to relieve the temporary discomfort of withdrawal than looking at porn. Going and seeing a prostitute, maybe that is worse, but it's not your choice. That's not the choice. That's what I'm getting at here. It's strengthen the addictive neural pathways, weaken the addictive neural pathways. It's not about porn or going and seeing a prostitute. It's about porn or choosing not to look at porn. That's always the decision. It's really simple. So break it down, make it simple, and that makes it a lot easier. Porn will help me sleep. Porn will help me sleep. This one is really peak junky thinking. It's very, very common again. What's going on here is someone's using that as a justification, another excuse to look at porn. But the problem with this is that, you're in an addiction, and so you want to escape the temporary discomfort of withdrawal, but that temporary discomfort of withdrawal and being unable to sleep is being created by the addiction. So when you actually go beyond the addiction, you're not going to have any sleep problems anymore if the sleep problems are being caused by the porn and the addiction. So it's really just about, what do you want? Temporary relief, or do you want long-term permanent mental freedom? Do you want to be able to sleep well for the rest of your life in maybe a few months' time, having quit the addiction? Or do you want to just be stuck in this cycle of using porn to get to sleep indefinitely and stay in the porn addiction? So just weigh that one up, and it's very, very obvious which is the right choice. Another one we've got, you deserve a break to relax. Okay, well, I don't really see anything relaxing about being stuck with shame and a lack of confidence, a lack of energy, not feeling as motivated or productive. There's nothing relaxing about being in a porn addiction. And I just think really if you if you have worked hard and you do feel like you deserve a break to relax, then go and do something that doesn't involve engaging in a compulsive behaviour, which is destroying your mental health. There's many ways to relax which don't involve something that is incredibly addictive and harmful. I will only look once. This is just the most classic junkie thinking. You're just going to look once and then that's that. You're never going to look again. This is something I told myself for many, many years. And yeah, the cycle just went round and round and round, and it was really hard to get free because I always thought this will be like the final time. I'll never look again. But when you can identify and see that's junkie thinking and you see that's bullshit, then you can get round it and go, actually, you know what? If I look, I am going to look again. I'm going to be in this addiction indefinitely, because that is the truth. Looking at porn creates more desire to look at porn. And so I will look once is totally incorrect thinking. It's just not true. And then the final one that I've wrote down is this doesn't count as porn. This is one of my most common ones personally. It's my own junkie thinking here. Most of them are our clients. But yeah, this one is just something that I told myself for so many years. I'd go on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, just all the sort of main social media platforms, and I'd be looking at sexual content on there, and I'd always tell myself, it doesn't count. It's not porn. But that was wrong. That just wasn't true, because ultimately it was highly, highly novel, sexually stimulating, arousing content that I was looking at, and I was in this compulsive state, masturbating, and I found some really quite sexual stuff on Instagram and Twitter as well. So, telling yourself it's not porn, if you have to make up an excuse to engage in a behaviour, then chances are it's compulsive, and that's the real problem here. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you can maybe relate and understand how this junkie thinking can be holding you back. I'd really recommend going away and actually writing down your own junkie thinking, or leave it in the comments if you want some accountability. Now, we do have some free training created by me and Mary Paulus, who has taught me all of this stuff that I'm talking to you about today. I recommend watching it. There is a link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video has helped, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.